Direct from the Six, world-renowned, Canada's largest city, with Canada's biggest thinkers, visionaries, and hustlers. This is Startup Talk, featuring the founders, funders, innovators, and community leaders who've led Canada's startup ecosystem right here in Toronto. You'll hear the challenges, the failures, the successes. Toronto's Startup Podcast gives you the full story direct from the entrepreneurs and influencers who've made a difference. Now, the host of Startup Talk, the founder of TorontoStarts, the Startup Coach.
Can you take a deep dive into your dislike of MVP versus what I called the MSP?
Yeah, and I love the term, minimal sellable product, because the thing is, the problem with the MVP is you prioritize different tools to build in an MVP than in an MSP. Okay, so what's the difference? If it's an MSP, if it's a minimal sellable product, you will prioritize building things that you can sell. So for example, in our situation, we built some things on the back end that the client could not see, but it allowed us to deliver a certain output in the first year. So yes, there was more human intervention, but it allowed us to take the product and sell it and acquire customers. And we acquired blue chip clients in year one because we prioritized building some stuff on the back end that allowed us to do certain type of trend analysis. If I was building an MVP, I would have focused on building more of a user experience that the client could access, which meant so much time would go to doing the front end, to doing user experience. That stuff is what sucks up time. Building and optimizing user experience, making sure the flow works and stuff doesn't break. My God, is that time consuming? And one little mistake and the client's pissed and it's not working. So that's why I take a bit of a dislike to MVP, because it forces you to prioritize things that don't get the money in. Instead, it prioritizes things that gets you VC money, because the VC sees the product and they go, oh, okay, it's looking a certain way and I can see how you can sell this thing. And so in my mind, at least, it's the wrong prioritization. You should be building stuff that can get revenue in, not building stuff that is making you give up your company.
Yeah, that's a really great way of putting it. I think of an MVP could be like a diagram on a napkin, because you're talking about showing your concept to somebody, whether that's a potential co-founder, an investor, but that's not usually sellable. Like I can't say, will you give me $500 for this napkin for a month? Right. So it's the sellable part is, okay, I've got this functioning thing that people are ready to pay for. And those are two different things. And I agree that the target for an MVP is for co-founders, it's for the pitch deck, it's for investors, it's for a different community than your customer.
I just met, and I can't go into details about them because of a very, very strong NDA, but I just met a very, very interesting company, and they've just spent 1.5 years building an MVP. And my first question was, have you tried selling this thing? They said, yeah. Okay. How much revenue did you bring in? $200, $500. But your pitch deck says you are going to build $1 billion company. That's what your pitch deck says. And then you haven't been able to sell even $1,000, something's off. Yet the VC will give them money. Oh, but I won't, right? It's the mindset is different. So I think this is where I try to tell founders, you got to think here. Do you want to take the shortcut, or do you want to do things the hard way, but the right way? Again, I'll just reiterate, I'm not saying nobody should go get VC money. Of course you should, for the right reasons and at the right times. And for me, the greatest benefit of entrepreneurship is the sense of ownership, the joy you get when you solve big problems. As an entrepreneur, that was so satisfying, solving problems, building a company, hiring people. When we had the exit, a lot of our employees who were shareholders all had significant impacts on their lives. Like, these are the things that I think matters at the end of the day. So I think just to get philosophical for a second, I think these are the questions you have to ask yourself before you figure out what route you want to take, MVP or MSP.
Where do people go to find out more?
You can go to Investment Arc, but Arc is spelled with a K, so investmentark.net. That's my investment company. So if you're a startup and you need some assistance, that's where to find me. And then, of course, my newsletter, Decision Lab. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Please don't hesitate to connect with me. And again, Craig will have a link to my LinkedIn profile as well.
Yeah, and all that'll be there. And I'll throw a link to the newsletter in the chat on LinkedIn. I see a couple of people asking it in an hour or so after the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you all for the great questions. And thank you for the great interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Startup Talk, Toronto's startup podcast. For more exclusive content, the episode vault, and to be part of Toronto Starts community, visit TorontoStarts.com. Get your name on the newsletter mailing list and check out our upcoming events. For more episodes, subscribe now. And please recognize the time and work behind the scenes put into connecting you with the biggest visionaries, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Toronto by leaving a 5-star review. Join us for more next episode from Toronto's most active entrepreneur and startup community on Startup Talk.